Hello, ChrisTFer.
Hello.
Welcome, and thank you for coming to share your experience and your Overwatch League news with the French community. I would like to point out that this interview will be broadcast on my birthday during the special live on Twitch. It will be my little gift. You will be my little pleasure for my birthday.
Well, happy birthday then.
Thank you very much. ChrisTFer, this is the first time you've been my guest, but we've seen each other twice. I don't know if you remember that, but the first time...
LA?
Oh.
Yeah, I remember.
All right. Yeah, but the first time was in Paris for the 2018 World Cup qualifiers. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I was a caster. You were a player, the main tank at Team UK alongside Cruz, Boombox, Skysmex, and some others as well. And before playing against France for the first rank, you set the mood by predicting an 4-0 victory for Team UK. Do you remember that?
We didn't want to use too much NAD, we didn't need to show too many strats, we just needed to play clean, consistent, and then prepare for the 4-0 later today. We've watched their games, they look pretty average. I think if we mirror the same comps, they don't stand a chance against us.
When I was a player, I was far more confident and outgoing than I am as a coach. I remember being very especially when you were on Team UK, because all of the boys on that team, they like boost you up, you know. So we were all like extremely overconfident. But to be fair, we really felt like we had a really good chance to beat you guys. I mean, you saw how after I retired and Fusions played, we did really well in the same meta once it went on. So we backed ourselves in that meta. But no, as it happened, we got destroyed by the French.
So when you say that thanks to Fusion, you were very good, you mean that it's because of you that UK didn't win against France?
Probably, to be fair, probably.
Really?
I practiced that entire, like the last 3 or 4 months, like Winston only. My Ryan was always my confidence hero, but then the meta changed to goats. Like during the tournament, we didn't really scrim it much. And I thought, okay, well maybe I've played Reinhardt many times before on stage before. If I have to play it, I'll be okay. And I really thought against Ben Best, I thought I'll be fine. I really was confident. I choked so hard though that tournament. I played so badly. So the truth is, if Fusions had been there instead of me for that game, I think we might have had a pretty good chance.
It was quite ballsy to announce that you're gonna win, especially in front of the French crowd.
Well, the French crowd was brilliant, but I think that also, to make it brilliant, you have to be the villains, right? There was no way that the French crowd were ever going to support Team UK, so you might as well go full villain mode ultimately. I still remember that event being probably my favorite that I played at. I remember whenever we lost a team fight because the French had wiped, it was I could feel the ground vibrating and stuff. It was definitely it was probably the best event certainly that I played at. I just wish I could have played the level that I wanted to.
To be the villain, is it part of your character or it's just part of the show?
It was. I think when you're younger, I think you see it a lot with certain people. Like Dogman went through an era similar, where I think that the fame, if you can call it that, comes to you quite fast, and all of a sudden people are doing interviews in the crowd, and it's quite easy, especially if you're slightly outgoing like I was. It's quite easy to buy into it and to try and effectively, it's just attention seeking is all it was. If I'm honest. But I also think it's relatively healthy for the game. I think that teams need more heroes and need more villains. I just think that the villains need to find a way of doing it without being maybe as cringe as me and Dogman were.
Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't really work very well, especially for Atlanta Reign. Atlanta Reign, they try to be, the villain as well. And sometimes they're popular, but sometimes they're not.
Well, that's the thing is, if it feels authentic, it's really good. But what Dogman did was so forced that most people saw through it to the point where you tried to be Conor McGregor of Overwatch, but without the same, I think the American accent doesn't help too. I think Irish accent makes it a lot easier to be Conor McGregor. But I think that if it comes naturally to you, it can be good. But if you go into the game, I'm going to say something offensive, I'm going to call Cruz a feeder or whatever it was, it comes across so forced. And I think people, one thing I've learned over the years as a person is people really authenticity. If they believe, regardless if they like or dislike what you're saying, if they believe it's genuine, then they respond to it. if you're someone where you can tell you're fake, I think people can smell fakeness from a mile away. I think ultimately that's been the problem with those who try to be the villain in Overwatch so far.
Yeah. Can you remind us the result, please, from the game against France, please? The real one.
3-0, right?
I think it was 4-0.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. All I remember was that, we lost the first 3, so we'd lost. I remember my last ever game as a player, we went out playing our new like Hammond's dive comp. Like we called it Dotes, and we just like had fun with it and that's how my career ended.
Yeah, it was on Route 66, I remember. Yeah. It was really, really close. So a 4-0 victory for the French team, which did not prevent Team UK from qualifying for the BlizzCon and then getting a very good 4th place. Don't worry, we will talk about it later. And as you said, and you remember it, and I'm quite happy about that, when I said that we seen each other twice, the second time, you were right, was in LA during the 2019 Overwatch League. You were then part of the Philly Fusion coaching staff and was invited to spend a few days alongside Paris Eternal. And I found myself, without shoes in my size, I want to point it out, playing football with you in Paris. There were Fefe, Albles, Hip, Ben Best, but also Sado, Neptuno, Boombox, if I remember well. And also you. Sorry?
Boombox has never played football in his life.
Okay, Boombox maybe was cheering, but not on the field. And you as well, who ran a lot and scored a few goals. That was a very good memory for me. Maybe one of the best from my journey in LA.
That year in LA, those football games that we used to play every week were definitely like my highlight on a personal level. We would always the games were always good. They were really fun. Even with like Fefe and some of the French guys, we tried to join a league playing competitively, and we got absolutely destroyed, like dismantled by these people there. So we stopped playing after 3 games. But that was one of the real advantages of the where everybody's in the same city and it's not like everyone's in their own location. Absolutely, I thoroughly enjoyed those football games.
Yeah, and as you said, it's important to have a few moments of relaxation and pleasure as well. It's also important to clear your mind and maybe move your body when you spend that much time in front of a screen.
Yeah, I agree. It was during that year that I realized that I have this theory about life, about how like dogs live their life without ever thinking. They see food, or I'll go eat the food. They see a ball, they go chase a ball. They see a stick, or they want to sleep. They just live life without ever worrying about the consequences of their actions. And I realize that's an extremely happy way to live. And that's the same when I play football. No matter how stressful the job was or how stressful life is, when the whistle blows, for those 2 hours, I turn into a dog too. I'm just chasing the ball, run here, run here, run here. And I think it is incredibly healthy just to get out of your own head. And obviously when you combine it with exercise, next season I'm going to try and do the same. I've been playing 6 days a week here in Korea, so I'm still doing it.
And you're still a competitor. So when you say that you don't really care like a dog lifestyle, it's not really true. I mean, I remember you wanted to win.
Oh, we were really competitive. Ben Best was the worst. Ben Best was worse than me. Ben Best is so competitive. I got a lot of respect for him during those games, especially when we played against other teams, because he was like shouting at the referee and doing all the things that like a real footballer does. But no, it's part of my DNA. Whenever we get into a game, it's always more fun to win than lose, and I think it works both ways. It's more fun to play against people who are trying to win, as long as they're not trying to win unfairly.
Yeah, and for the record, we won. I remember we won.
Yeah.
ChrisTFer, we know how much the English loves sports and football in particular. Do you have a football culture? Do you support a club?
Yes, Manchester United. I've watched every single game of theirs for probably like close to 10 years. I'm as football obsessed as anybody that you can find.
Would you like in the Champions League Manchester United against Paris Saint-Germain?
At the start of the season, I would have said no. But to be honest with you, watching how PSG have played this season, I don't think it's necessarily a difficult match. I think that Manchester City, Liverpool and Chelsea are all much better than PSG right now. I mean, Man United were pretty bad this year, so you'd probably win. But when I saw you guys signed Messi and Ramos and everybody, I was scared. But now, after watching you guys play, I think we could win, really.
Yeah, why not? Remember last time you said that you're gonna win against the French team. You lost.
Win. I've gone down. I said could win it against France in the World Cup. I said we will win.
Good point. Good point. And with the national team, England, which has won nothing since 1966, maybe the next World Cup will be the right one. You have a great generation. Who's your favorite player in the England team?
I shouldn't say this as a Man United fan, but I think Phil Foden is like a different level player. I think in the next few years, if you watch him, I think he's unbelievably high level. And I think that he should be like one of the first players on the team for England. And I think that between him and Luke Shaw, I think that left side can be like the best in the world. And I think you're right. I think across the next eight years or so, we have to have won something. This team is too good. It's working too well. Like if we don't win anything, it's an unbelievable disaster.
Yeah, and he's still very young, Phil Foden.
All of them are the whole team. Like Rashford, Sancho, Foden, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right back. He's really young. Like we have an extremely young team coming through. Even Greenwood, who plays for Man United, who I think will be one of the best players in the world in like 3 or 4 years. So we have to win it. Really, like. If I'd go my entire lifetime without watching us win the World Cup, I'll be so devastated, really.
ChrisTFer, I want to come back and talk about Overwatch and especially the 2018 World Cup at Paris. During the qualifiers, you were a player, and a few weeks later at the BlizzCon, you were in the coaching staff. What happened? Yeah. What made you want to take this turn in your career?
Well, that Paris World Cup was what I really, the group stages really was what in my head was like my make or break. I was playing the best Overwatch I'd ever played. I'd actually done various like techniques that I always was a problem with choking. That was always my problem. And I'd actually overcome it that season in Contenders. We didn't necessarily do well, but I felt like my personal performance was the best it had ever been. My Winston was as good as it had ever been. I felt like my hero pool was good. Everything was good. So I really felt like I'm going to go into this World Cup with Team UK. We're going to show the world. I'll go to BlizzCon and then I'll get into the Overwatch League for sure. And I just went in and I got so nervous. I choked so hard. And I just played terribly. And it just kind of struck me at the airport on the way home, like, you've done all this, you're playing your best, and then when it mattered most, you played really poorly again. That maybe, because Hayes had spoke to me a little bit at the event about, like, oh, do you want to try coaching? I thought, well, maybe if you're going to make the jump to coaching, you should do it now. And that's what I did.
Yeah, but that's a completely different job. I mean, all the players do not necessarily want or necessarily have the qualities to join a coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. When I was a player, I always said to myself, I'm not going to be one of those players that just retires and goes coach to get an easy salary. But when I thought about it more, I think the best coaches that were players tend to be like leadership people who are vocal, who have personality skills. And I'd been like the quote unquote captain of every team that I'd played for. Both the national team and then Hammers and Chavs and on all these teams. I was always like the leader of those teams. So I felt like that was maybe it was a more natural progression for me than some of the more shyer, quieter players. I didn't necessarily know if it was going to work out. I thought I'll try it. And then I rang up Nuki on British Hurricane, ironically, and she says, okay, we'll give you a trial. And then within the first 3 days of trialing with Hurricane, they really liked me. I was actually really enjoying the job far more than I expected. And then they said, okay, you're through the trials, you can come join us as a coach. And then ironically, that same week, Philly contacted me saying, yeah, we want you to come coach for us. So I thought, well, this is what I've effectively been working for 3 years as a player, and for 1 month as a coach, I've made it. So I would have been stupid not to take the opportunity. And then from then on, it's always been up. It's always been like getting better, climbing, until we are here today, where I get my first opportunity to head coach.
And what memories do you have of this 2018 World Cup where you finished 4th after eliminating the USA at home and after having drawn on 2 maps against the unbeatable South Korea?
We should have beat them, to be honest with you. I wasn't actually at the BlizzCon. I wasn't able to go because Blizzard didn't cover like assistant coaches, so I watched from home. I remember the Paris one specifically was an extremely fun event. All of those World Cup events are always some of the highlights of my life, unquestionably. I remember the night after we lost to France was probably the messiest night I've ever been part of. I think we were out till 6 or 7 a.m. on random buses and random bars. But it wasn't just Team UK, it was Team Netherlands. I think maybe even some of the French guys too. But those events in general were absolutely like the highlight. It was when Overwatch was fresh enough and everyone would come to these events, and they were just unbelievable fun, both competing and for meeting everybody. So only nice things to say about my experience in France, except for playing against the French.
And today, would you say that you were a better player or that you are a better coach?
A better coach, 100%, not even close. You can't choke as a coach, which is really important. There's less pressure. I think there's so many of my skills are better as a coach than they were as a player. I don't think it's even close, really.
And do we take more pleasure as a player or as a coach? Or maybe it's a different one?
Nah, it's as a player. Those who go into coaching and tell you it's the same, I think they're all lying. I think I've seen football managers say the same. Being a player is the most fun that you can have. It's far more fun, as much as people complain, to work hard and put in a few hours of ranked after scrims than it is to troll through VODs and do all this. Like, the job itself is more exciting. The highs are higher, the lows are lower. Being a player is unquestionably more fun, but we don't live in a society where you can do only what's fun. Unfortunately, you have to do what you're good at, which for me ended up being coaching.
Yeah, and there are still fun parts in the coaching stuff.
Not by any stretch, but playing was the dream, really.